Are men trash? Let's talk about it. Hey, Charisma here. Oh, welcome back. If you're new around here, hello. Are men trash? Well, that seems to be the belief of a lot of modern women today. And they're not ashamed, or afraid to express that men are trash. Take a listen for yourself and hear out of the horse's mouth what these modern women has to say.
Oh, cis, heterosexual men, absolutely, especially white men.
What rights do you think that men have that women don't today?
A woman can still walk a street and not feel protected versus a man can.
Women are probably underrepresented.
Like, it started off with great intent, but you have people who abuse the system.
A hatred of masculine energy.
It's like anti-men.
Today I'm out here and I'm
It is anti-men. It is. This is where we're at. This is where we're at in society. Definitely anti-men.
asking, is feminism still relevant in today's society?
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, it's more relevant now than it ever was.
Yeah, I would say feminism's still relevant today. You know, we built this country, men, but women at the same time got to supply more men, right? With no women, the world doesn't go round.
If you look at
Well, I don't think feminism is relevant in this day's culture and society. I think it's very toxic. I understand where it started, and it was supposed to be a good thing. But at the end of the day, and the truth of the matter is the reason why feminism was really started wasn't about equality. It was about female supremacy. And we are living in a matriarchal society where women can get away with everything. Okay, giving women more opportunities, that's cool. Men or women are not equal. Let's be real. Let's be clear. I've said that so many times on this show. But is it relevant today? Look at what feminism has become. It's not only about women anymore. It's about men who say they are women, and it's about all the other spectrums of genders who's now included in feminism. So at the end of the day, is it really truly about women? No, it's not. And that's the reality of it all. But let's continue.
domestic abuse, for instance. We know that it happens to people of all genders, but it seems to be disproportionately affecting women.
Is feminism still relevant in today's society?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. They put up a lot of bullshit. They pull up with sexual harassment. They put up with a whole lot of bullshit that us men just don't have to deal with.
Of course it's relevant. Throughout history, women have been discriminated against.
It is, but I think it's changed a lot.
Here you go.
Feminism started out as women's rights, and now it has skewed into something entirely different than what it was.
Are we going too far? Did we do this and all the rest of that instead of being angry?
Now it's morphed into something that's more preaching a superiority over men kind of stance. I work.
Exactly. It has. And like I just said that before they actually said so, that it's no longer about women and equal opportunities and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It is war on men. It is about female supremacy, and it is about lack of accountability as a woman, that you can get away with anything. And furthermore, women seem to be becoming increasingly violent, especially towards men. But you know what? Nobody's talking about that. Okay? No one talks about that.
With some people who would consider themselves heavy feminists, and they are constantly dogging on men, and they openly say, I hate men. I would say that as long as men are alive, feminism is always going to be relevant.
Why?
Because men.
It's today we're more polarized than ever before. And if men and women can't get along, it can only hurt society.
Exactly.
Radical feminists who generally hate men.
They consider us a hate group.
The patriarchy.
But in today's lack of nuance, is it considered sexist to even question the topic? And if I had to be honest with myself, could I do it without my own bias? I guess we gon' see. What rights do men have today that women don't?
Oh, let's go down the list. A woman can still walk a street and not feel protected versus a man can.
I think we all have equality when it comes to laws.
Men are able to walk out maybe in whatever they want to wear or, be able to stand strong through societal pressure.
I feel like women take a lot of precautions just by being a woman themselves,
Statistically, just going into like a corporate setting, if you look at how women are rated on performance review versus men, the language that's used, assertive versus bossy, or kind of the dynamic of how individuals are interacting in the workplace, I do think that there are societal norms that place women at a disadvantage, absolutely.
I think so for instance, for pregnancy, right? There's no law saying employers can't fire you if you're pregnant. Or abortion, for instance, that's a law that only affects women, right?
But don't you think that's just kind of explained by biological differences?
But why does that justify making a law anyway that literally discriminates women?
And so biological differences lead to different.
How does that discriminate against women? I mean, it's never ending. It's that, us women, we're always complaining. Everything discriminates against us. We want to be like men. We want to be treated like men, but yet we want to be treated special because we're women. Do you understand? Do you see the double standards? How can that work? Let's continue.
Different treatments and reality. And so I wanted to take a different view on this topic of equality. Do you think today that women have certain privileges that men don't have?
Yes.
Yeah, part of that goes into being able to say certain things that, men would get scolded for.
They can just talk completely out of their ass freely. You're not allowed to say nothing back.
Do you think, let's say, do men have problems that, let's say, that women don't experience? For example, in statistics, men have higher rates of suicide and, obviously men die more when it comes to wars.
Women can go to war.
Yeah, but how about
Women can go to war.
It's true. Who's overwhelmingly going to war and dying in wars?
Men. Clearly. Let's be clear. Women may serve various areas in the army or whatever you call it for war, but are they on the front lines like the men are? Who built this society? Who built the roads that we drive on? The infrastructure that we have in various societies in this world. It's always been men and will continue to be predominantly men. You may find a woman here and there, maybe in some of these industries, but at the end of the day, it's predominantly men.
I'm not going to argue that.
I mean, I feel like the war thing is a little hard to get into just because for the majority, men are going to war. It's not really women going to war, so of course more men die.
Why do you think that is?
I feel like that's just because it's kind of like the roles that society portrayed forever ago. Men are warriors and men are the ones that are fighting, and then women.
Do you think more women should go into war then?
Absolutely not. No woman should ever go into any military.
But wouldn't that be going against equality if you're barring women from going in the military then?
Well, I'm not saying barring, but I'm saying I feel like as a woman, you should know that you're not going to be putting yourself in a healthy situation going into the military. Because it's harder to be a woman in the military than it is to be a man.
I think that feminism is also,
But if you want to be treated like a man, why not? Why would you not want to go to war? Why should you be treated special? Answer me that. Tell me that.
almost an excuse for behavior, flashing your tits or something like that, behaviors like that. But if a guy wanted to pull just his balls out, it would be,
You'd be arrested.
A little less socially accepted for sure.
Exactly.
So.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you think in this sense that men have less privilege today than women?
Yes.
Privilege is all kind of how you look at it, what you're looking for. I think I'm pretty privileged. A lot of black people probably don't say they're privileged, so that's kind of how I look at it. We need to just stop looking and thinking everybody got greener grass and kind of just accept the fact we're not in a third world country, with Russia invading us or some bullshit, you know what I mean? Life ain't that bad. It's 78 and sunny out. Chill the fuck out.
And you're high as shit right now, aren't you?
I'm cooked. Thank you.
Now, I don't know what to exactly make of what I'm about to explain to you next, but it may explain what's happening with society today. An experiment called Universe 25 created a mice paradise with an abundance of food and water. The aim was to study behavior over a time period in an attempt to explain human societies. And it was all good, but after 315 days, something unexpected happened. The population reached 600 and a hierarchy was formed with larger rodents starting to attack and cause male rodents to collapse psychologically.
Under those conditions, social behavior broke down.
This led to a new class of males called beautiful males who only care for food and sleep, and isolated aggressive females who didn't want to reproduce. And eventually, the society collapsed because of the lack of reproduction, lack of care for their young. And the scary part is that after repeating this experiment 25 times, the same results were observed over and over again. A viral Facebook post drew parallels to today's society with weak feminized men with no protection instincts and overly aggressive females with no maternal instinct.
Yes, yes, and yes.
We need to kill all men.
It's a bit of a stretch, but is it possible that that's what's happening in the West today? Is the negative reaction of feminism coming from the fact that not only are women struggling, but also men? Let's take a closer look and see what this really means. May I ask you, what are some examples of misogyny that you faced?
Oh, let's see. I went through there was one time, I'm a psychology major. We were tasked with counting how many times we got catcalled. I realized every time during that month I went to a gas station at nighttime, I got catcalled.
I've seen some of my guy friends literally make 30 grand more than some of my girlfriends, just because they're men.
But let's say that the pay gap does exist. Why wouldn't firms just hire women then?
They have to find probably quotas at this point.
Do you think there's quotas for men?
What? There are quotas for women and groups of visible minorities. What is she smoking? They're quotas for men? Okay.
No, probably not. There's a lot more men in power in the top 1%. A lot of the women are the ones left in the dust.
There's definitely in the top 1%, I think there's definitely more men for sure. But let's say in the bottom, right? Most suicides are men. Most people with depression are men. Do we sometimes ignore that to maybe showcase disparities where it might not exist?
Yeah. Yes, men do have a disadvantage at that point.
So is it fair to say then that both genders at this point maybe had disadvantages in certain situations, but when it comes to the law, they're pretty equal and even opportunities?
Yes, it does have that societal influence more from a social standpoint. It's not necessarily what is placed in the law, but it has everything to do with how people interpret the law for themselves. With women, you have to jump through all these barriers in order to even be elected in office.
However, I did hear though, for every male college grad, there's 2 women college grads. And I believe most college students are actually women. So I guess what would you say to that?
I know that women are probably underrepresented in the military or in trade school, so men might find more interest in doing that instead of getting a bachelor's. So that's a whole career path that women really aren't being encouraged to do as much.
I mean, I guess
Yeah, but women don't want to do trade schools. More educated women are coming out of college and universities. It's been proven time and time again that women are getting more higher education than men are. The question is, why is that? Well, because it's pushed that way. That is how society is set up. That women be more educated and men are pushed into trades and so on. Come on.
You say that there's probably different interests in general between the genders?
Now there's much more of a push to get women into STEM, so there's more of that. But when I was younger, there wasn't really that going on.
So it does raise the question, does feminism account for the advancements made, or will they have happened regardless? And if so, is feminism more important than ever to preserve progress and also to prevent regression towards inequality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should remain. Originally, it's not a toxic thing. Again, what modern society has morphed it into, especially things like social media, it has turned it into more of a superiority kind of cloak than it is actually pushing equal rights.
So it did make me think, are we at a point now where there's actually male inequality in the West? And in a video titled exactly that seems to be the case.
My latest book is Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling.
Yeah, I did an episode on this very same video by this psychologist and author, and then he's amazing. He just breaks down the stats and the science and what's actually going on in society today. So you should check it out.
And what to do about it.
But is he just one of those red pill, misogynistic, cisgendered anti-feminists? And what he found through his research is that women are leaving men behind in advanced metrics like education and the workforce. In the 70s, Title IX was implemented to close a 13% gap in college degrees between men and women, but now there's a 15% gap in favor of women with degrees. And so today, there's evidence that there's inequality on both sides. And as feminism has pushed more representation for women in STEM, we're not seeing similar efforts for men in female-dominated professions like HEAL or health, education, administration, and literacy. And with blue-collar jobs disappearing, men need jobs. And the thing is, there's availability. For every one STEM job, there's 3 HEAL jobs, but currently only 26 of those positions are filled by men, whereas 27% of STEM positions are filled by women. And so the more controversial a topic, the more we need to look at the nuance. But today, are we even able to, or even want a discussion in the first place?
Are men trash?
Cis, heterosexual men, absolutely, especially white men.
Weren't you just talking about equality?
Oh, absolutely. But we have to have that viewpoint because of how much we've been attacked just by that gender.
But you just said that all straight men are trash. Like, that's a pretty big...
Yeah, all straight men are trash, especially white men.
Generalization, don't you think?
It definitely is. It's not necessarily something I'm gonna like saying via statistics. I'm saying via experience.
Are men trash?
No, I like my dad. He's not trash, so most men are trash.
I don't think men are
Most
trash.
men
Men just have
are
more
trash.
advantages. But like I said, like I wouldn't want to be on the front lines of like, you know, some army. I don't.
That's when feminism goes out the window, right?
Yeah, that's it. 100% does.
And so I wanted to ask the same, but the reverse.
Are women trash then?
No, I don't think anyone's trash. I like people. I think that there are some people that have had really bad hands, but in general, I would like to think that most people are good.
What would happen if we said that women are trash?
I say it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think they're trash too.
I thought you were a feminist.
I'm not a feminist, no. Maybe a little misogynistic. No, I'm just kidding.
But all kidding aside, in order to have a discussion, there needs to be mutual respect. And if
Yep.
equality truly is the goal, do they mean that in all aspects?
Why do you think women are allowed to say that men are trash, but men can't say that women are trash?
Because, I mean, just based off of history, you know, men have been the dominant sex. I mean, not even really 100 years ago, women were more of an obtained piece of property.
Sometimes women's are trash. But I think more men than women for sure.
It's one of the many double standards.
That's because of what feminism has turned into. It's no longer about the quality of men and women. It is more the differences between men and women.
In recent times, that history of inequality has been exposed in no other place than Hollywood.
With Hollywood's sex abuse scandal growing by the day, Me Too movement.
Me too.
Me too. Me too.
The Me Too movement in 2017 raised awareness to numerous stories of sexual abuse of women in the workplace. And not only was the movement successful in exposing individuals like Harvey Weinstein, it even had an impact on public policy through the passage of laws to prevent harassment in the workplace. But like anything, the pendulum swings both ways.
Yeah.
Despite its success, the Me Too movement promoted extreme slogans such as "Believe all women,"
All
and
women.
along with it created a climate of fear where innocent men were unfairly accused and reputations destroyed.
Did Johnny brutalize you?
Stop.
Ever?
And the most notable was the Johnny Depp Amber.
Yes, this was my pivotal moment when I realized I can't do this anymore. I can't serve women like how I was doing before. It left a sour, disgusting taste in my mouth. When I witnessed this trial live, and then when I would see what was going on in the media, I would watch the trial live, and then the media that same day would report a totally different narrative as to what took place in the courtroom. And that changed me for good. That changed my heart. Not to say I hate women, I'm a woman, but in terms of my support and advocating for women, I made a change to, well, it sort of turned me off, number one. And number two, I made a change to advocate for men, because men are the underprivileged. Men are the ones at the bottom. Men are the ones where the pendulum has swung. And men basically have no rights these days. And a woman can say anything and get away with it. There doesn't have to be proof, but the fact that she says it about a man can just destroy his life, his reputation, his career. Pretty much he's done.
Heard case where Heard wrote an op-ed alleging that she was a victim of abuse. And it wasn't until 4 years after getting canceled from everything when Depp won the defamation trial for the false allegations.
Do you think that in a certain way Me Too movement also went too far? It started off with great intent, and it's designed to have great intent, but you have people who abuse the system and people who take advantage of it, and they see a payday or a time for fame, and it ruins it for the real people out here who are actually victims.
Me Too is for true survivors.
It's a clusterfuck of bullshit.
And it's the unfortunate reality that any overcorrection swings back just as strongly in the opposite direction. And so is this what's happening in modern feminism in the West today? And if so, how can we correct this overcorrection before it's too late?
The best way that I could learn from you is by sitting down and listening to you and really trying to understand, seeking to understand where you come from and learning from that dynamic and that dialogue.
I say conversations like this, right?
Absolutely.
I think that we need to get rid of terms like feminism. Feminism is more of like a suppression of masculine energy, essentially. Getting rid of that sense of like dominance of one over the other would be the better society to exist in.
Because if negative attention wasn't enough, it's now becoming harder to be a feminist, even if you're a feminist. For years, the author of Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, identified as a feminist who advocated for women's rights, whether it be speaking out or through donations or advocacy. But in 2020, it was as if none of that mattered anymore. After expressing concern on Twitter what constitutes of women, she was berated by activists as misogynistic and most notably a TERF. TERF stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist and is an acronym used by trans activists to describe someone as transphobic for believing that gender is based on biological sex. Due to this, Rowling has faced strong criticism to a point where it has impacted her legacy. The new video game Hogwarts Legacy is labeled so controversial to a point where Twitch streamers are refusing to play it for fear of being called transphobic. And similarly, it's this extremism masked as inclusion that's dividing the feminist movement from within and confusing the original message of equality for all. Would you say you're a feminist yourself?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say I'm not a feminist. I just think that like the word feminism needs to be redefined.
What should it be called?
I don't know. Seeking truth and justice and equality? I don't know.
The men are trash group?
No, men are not trash.
And so if women are hesitating to identify with the movement, it's likely due to the impact of the extreme. Because if equality is achieved through bringing others down, it's creating issues where none exist and perpetuating double standards. But with that said, feminism is needed. While true equality may be difficult to achieve and some may not actually desire it, nothing significant ever came about through indifference. The pendulum is ever swinging, and we need individuals who push for progress and serve as a check to maintain balance. But today, how can we even navigate differences if we can't even question the nuance? I guess it's up to me to lead the way, and it all starts with exploring the unfamiliar. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more content where I turn
Interesting. You saw it, you heard it. Where they talk about men are trash, feminism. Is it relevant today? I don't believe so. Started off with a good intention, but at the bottom of it, the truth of the matter is it was really about female supremacy. And look what it's become. It's all about equality for all when it started off as primarily being about women. So I still believe to this day that feminism is a scam. And some people believe that feminism is dead because it no longer holds that up. All it does is creates division between men and women when we should be striving to bring men and women together. That's all I have to say about that. Until next time, I'd love to hear your comments. What do you think? Take care and bye for now.